All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our OCP Modern Workplace Productivity U.S. Partner Community Call for April. And we're going to be talking about teams today, and we want to make sure that everyone is ready. And for our agenda today, we have some partner technical architects from our Modern Workplace team. So these are all colleagues of mine, and I'm excited for today's call. And the first we're going to start out with just kind of catch you up on all the announcements that have happened, and then that's going to be David Branscombe. He's a partner technical architect on our team, and then Robert Gates will talk us through kind of the partner call to action, kind of where we are today, and different situations that you may be in with your customers, and so he's going to give us some advice and some suggestions and be able to talk us through some of the resources that are available to you. And then Robert, and also we have Bob German with us as well, and they're going to take you through some of the team's extensibility. And then we'll leave some time for Q&A. But of course, during the meeting, if you would like to participate and ask the questions directly, you can use your messages window to go ahead and answer those questions. And if you don't get them answered right away, we'll be monitoring those and we'll be feeding them to the appropriate presenter when the timing is right. And also, we're going to jump right into our content today, but you can always get a recording of this call, usually about an hour after. You can go ahead and just register like you normally would, and the stream will be available to you, and the deck will be posted to our Yammer call. I'll try to get that out for you a little bit later today, and I'll also, I didn't include our resources slide, but you can see that. I'll make sure that gets included to the deck that gets posted to Yammer so that you can see all the different links to our blogs, to our community calls, and the link to that Yammer group as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and kick things off, and we'll start off with David Branscombe. And David, welcome.
Thank you.
And good to have you here today. And so between Enterprise Connect and those April updates, there's a lot of things that have been happening at quite the pace.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of stuff that's been happening. Unfortunately, I didn't have the chance to go to Enterprise Connect, but just watching the announcements that were being made, really very exciting stuff. So we'll talk first about some of the announcements and new features that are going to be rolling out very shortly in Teams. And really, if you've been following the announcements, the Teams voice capabilities and video capabilities are really moving very quickly. It's nice to see how quickly they're coming to parity with Skype for Business. So we'll talk about a few of those as we go through the next few minutes. So one of the big ones that a lot of partners have been asking about is direct routing. So essentially, the idea behind direct routing is that it gives the ability, or it gives customers the ability to use phone system, which used to be called Cloud PBX, in Office 365 and connect to a SIP trunk, which then allows Microsoft Teams to use that SIP trunk to get out to the PSTN directly off of the customer's infrastructure. So if you look at the picture that's provided there in the slide, this is really probably the simplest deployment model. So the customer starts with a SIP trunk from their own telecommunications provider, whoever that might be, and then they will have a certified session border controller from one of our partners, and then they connect that SBC to Microsoft Teams and to the cloud system, or the phone system in Office 365. So that's a rough view of what it will look like. So what are the things that it enables? The first thing is obviously an easy transition to the use of calling in Teams. So it gives you the ability to integrate with an existing PBX, which means that if you have a PBX on-prem, you can leverage this type of architecture to move your users from that on-premise PDX directly into Teams and use the existing SIP trunk to get out to the PSTN. The call traffic between the users during that transition, it's going to stay within the organization, so it's pretty seamless from that perspective. It also gives the ability to have this telephony system interop story. So while users are being transitioned to calling in Teams, or organizations that have like a call center, the agents in that call center can continue to use their application. Direct routing is going to enable both use cases to coexist. So the call traffic between the call center agents and the Teams users, again, stays within the organization. An important thing that's enabled that a lot of customers and partners have been asking about is the ability to support analog devices. So if an organization wants to move to Teams and to use calling in Teams, they may still have analog devices, phones in elevators or like emergency phones in parking lots or overhead pagers, things like that. Those kind of devices can be connected to Teams and phone system through direct routing. And again, the call traffic between those analog devices and Teams will stay within the organization. I mentioned that Microsoft is certifying certain SBC vendors, session border controller vendors, to ensure that they're compatible with our direct routing guidelines. We're starting with audio codes, Ribbon, and ThinkTel. But then our plan over the next months and year is to continue to look at different SBC vendors and certify them as they meet our specifications. One thing that's important to remember as you go in and talk to your customers, direct routing is designed to work with Microsoft Teams, right? It's not intended to be used with Skype for Business Online. Customers who are using Skype for Business Online should continue to use Cloud Connector Edition, or they can use the on-premise Skype for Business pool for their trunk connection needs. So they may have a trunk that's connected to an SBC that is integrated with their Skype for Business Enterprise infrastructure, and they can continue to use that, but they would not use the direct routing. Direct routing is specific to Teams. A couple other things that have been in the works, I guess you could say. Cloud recording. So cloud recording, the idea is that we would provide one-click meeting recordings with automatic transcription and time coding. It would enable all the team members to read captions for the recording or from within the recording. They'll be able to search within the conversation that took place, and they'll be able to play back either all or just part of the meeting. In the future, one of the interesting things that's going to be enabled is facial recognition, so that remarks can be attributed to specific meeting attendees. So it might be a situation where someone is talking in the meeting and the video, for one reason or another, it isn't showing their face. Maybe it's a recorded via some other type of device. But we can edit that recording so that the recording shows the speaker their face rather than somebody else's. There's also this inline message translation, so people who speak different languages will be able to very fluidly communicate with one another by translating posts in the channel and in chat within Teams. So, this will be translated in line. So if someone's posting something in a channel in Italian, for example, it can be translated in line back into English. So it allows for different language groups to communicate within the same team, which can be very, very useful for cross-region collaboration. Then the last one is, again, a very interesting idea, the Cortana voice interactions for Teams-enabled devices. What this is going to allow you to do is make or join a meeting, or make a call or join a meeting, or add people to a meeting from within Teams just using your voice, just your natural language. You'll be able to just speak and say, I'd like to add Michael to the meeting, and Teams will be able to do that. That functionality is going to extend to the IP phones and conference room devices that are integrated with Teams over time. So that'll take a little bit longer, but that's something to kind of look forward to. That's a neat one. Background blur on video. So the ability to blur your background during video calls. It allows other meeting attendees to focus on you, not on what's behind you. So we've all probably seen the video of the BBC broadcast where the guy was given the broadcast from his office and his kids came wandering into the room. So that's probably not the typical use case for something like this, but maybe if you've got your poster of Cyndi Lauper from the 80s on your wall in the background, and you want to blur that during a video call, just so that people don't tease you about that. That's something you could do. Proximity detection for Teams meetings. So this is not proximity of the people in the meeting. What this is actually for is to allow you when you join a team, if you're in a room let's say you're in a conference room and you want to start up a team meeting and you want to add a Skype room system to the meeting, that'll be enabled. It'll pop up as being available, and you can add it very quickly rather than having to search through it in a directory or something of that sort. Mobile sharing in meetings. So meeting attendees will be able to share a live video stream, photos, or even the screen from their mobile device. So sometimes you might be in a situation where you need to share content directly from your mobile device, with your phone or a tablet, and we'll be able to do that. All right, so a lot of stuff in the April update. So things we talked about are things that are kind of future looking. They haven't been released yet, but the things that we're talking about here in April, on this April updates page, these are things that we expect to see this month. So the first, Skype for Business contacts are going to be coming to Teams. So we'll import your contact list from Skype for Business Online to Teams. So any contacts and groups that you created in Skype for Business will show up in Teams on your contact list. To see this, in Teams, you click on Chat in the left navigation and then click on Contacts, and there you'll see all your existing contacts, and you'll be able to add new ones, create new contact groups, things of that sort. For now, only the contacts from inside your organization are going to be imported. Over time, we'll enable the capability to add the federated contacts from outside your organization. That'll be coming in the future. One that has been really kind of a hot button for a lot of people is the synchronization of your presence between Teams and Skype for Business. So showing whether you're available, free, busy, in a call. That is now going to be aggregated between Teams and Skype for Business. So regardless of what client you're using, because in many cases people will be using both clients, they'll have both Skype and Microsoft Teams on their desktop or laptop. And up until right now, there's a possibility that those presence states would be different. So you could show up as available in Skype, but busy in Teams. So we're making sure that this is going to be synchronized and aggregated together so that you show one presence across both systems. The out of office message. So if you're on vacation or you're traveling, your out of office status and the message with that out of office will show up in Microsoft Teams. So if people hover over your people card, the little image of you that shows up in Teams. Your coworkers will get a reminder that you're out of the office. And if they do something like @mention you in a channel, or if they send you a private chat, they'll also get a reminder that you're out of office. Skype for Business interop with persistent chat. As companies are upgrading from Skype for Business to Teams, we expect that users in some companies will be using, as I mentioned, both apps at the same time, both the Skype for Business app and the Teams app. And so to ensure their ability to be productive during the transition, we've added the ability for Teams users to communicate with others who are using Skype for Business, whether that's online or on-prem. So team users will have the view of the full interop chat history across their Teams clients. So whether they're using a mobile client or the web client or the full download client, they'll have that full interop chat history. For this to work correctly, the underlying Skype for Business account that's connected to the Teams user, it needs to be hosted in Skype for Business Online. So that's for the user that's on Teams, right? It has the underlying account has to be in Skype for Business Online. Improved notifications about calls. So if you miss a call or you get a new voicemail, you will see a notification in your activity feed. When you click on that missed call notification, you'll be taken directly to the call history tab, and from there you can call the person back directly. If you click on a new voicemail notification, you'll be taken to the voicemail tab, and you'll be able to listen to your message or even review the transcript of the message. And it's important to realize, though, that you're only going to see those types of notifications if you have a calling plan. So if you're using phone system with a calling plan, if you're using the direct routing type of path, that won't that won't be possible. Collaborating with people in Microsoft Teams using guest access. So we have rolled out the ability to add anyone as a guest in Microsoft Teams. So anyone with either a business or consumer email account, like Outlook.com or Gmail.com or Yahoo or whatever, they can participate as a guest in Teams and have full access to team chats, meetings, and files. We just did this this morning on one of our internal calls on our team, where we had guest users from outside our organization join the call. They were able to share their desktop, do everything. They were just added as guests. So it was a very nice functionality to have. So previously, the way this worked, you had to have an Azure AD account in order to be added as a guest, but now anybody with an email address can be added to a team. All the guests in Teams will still be covered by the same compliance and auditing protection as the rest of Office 365, and that can all be managed securely within Azure AD. Support for new languages. So Teams is getting smarter. We now support Indonesian, Romanian, and Vietnamese. So if anybody has a need for those language families, that is now supported in Teams. We now support up to 200 channels per team. Keep in mind that this number, 200 channels per team, will also include channels that you may have deleted. So if you have 199 teams and visible in your client, or 199 channels visible in your team's client, and you've deleted 5, if you deleted let me back up. If you have 194 channels in a particular team, and there are 4 that have been deleted or 5 that have been deleted, 1 more is the only one that you'll be able to add. So 200 total. Ignore the confusing math that I tried to give you there. New Microsoft Teams and Skype for Business Admin Center. So to enable admins to better manage the various aspects of the Skype for Business and Teams services, We're starting to roll out the new integrated Skype and Teams Admin Center. Provides you with this unified experience to manage both your Teams and Skype for Business infrastructure. This is currently in the process of rolling out. It may not be on your tenant right now. I checked a couple of the tenants that I have for testing this morning, and it wasn't showing up on them, but that is rolling out over the course of the next several weeks. This will give you the ability, some added functionality to do things like manage message policies on an individual user level. Retention policies. So as an admin, you can now use the Office 365 Security and Compliance Center to set retention policies for teams. So that will help your organization to stay compliant with regulatory requirements or obligations around the preservation of documents and records. By applying these retention policies to things like conversations and chats and channel messages, you have the ability to decide proactively whether you want to retain the content, delete the content, or retain it for a certain time period. The install of Microsoft Teams using the MSI. So admins now have the ability, this is a request that many organizations have had. They want to be able to deploy the Microsoft Teams client using an MSI file, either 32-bit or 64-bit, which allows them to remotely deploy Teams so that users don't have to manually download the Teams app. So the value of this is that it lets organizations who are using for example, System Center, Config Manager, or the deploying with group policy, or some other third-party distribution tool, they'll be allowed or be able to deploy Microsoft Teams clients on their own schedule and in their preferred manner. There are some new features on the Teams iOS and Android apps. So the ability to have Skype for Business interop with persistent chat, which we talked about previously, the unified presence between Teams and Skype for Business, as well as contact groups have started to roll out on the mobile clients as well. And the last one that's mentioned here is guest access on mobile devices. So you'll be able to switch between your primary account, and if you're a guest in another Teams organization, you can switch to that guest access account on your iOS or Android devices, and even on unmanaged and managed devices. For the managed Android devices, you're going to have to make sure that you're on the latest version of the Authenticator and Company Portal apps, which are available from the Play Store. All right, now let's talk a little bit about device updates and news. So a couple of things that are mentioned here. Microsoft collaboration devices. Obviously, one of the ones that we're very proud of is Microsoft Surface Hub. So it's Teams is going to be natively supported on the Surface Hub, which is going to enhance the capabilities of Teams in places like huddle spaces in your offices, meeting rooms where you have a Surface Hub. You'll be able to use Teams from the Surface Hub. Meeting room systems, Lenovo and HP are joining the crowd. We've already been working with Logitech, Crestron, and Polycom, and they'll be adding their devices to the mix, their meeting room system devices to the mix to transform conference room experiences using rich audio, HD video, center of room control, one-touch join, all the great things that make a meeting room system very valuable and way to be productive. So all Skype room systems will also support Teams meetings. VTC interop, so connecting to existing equipment. Teams is going to certify new solutions from BlueJeans, PEXIP, and Polycom to support interop for meetings in Teams with existing hardware investments. So if you've got devices from BlueJeans, PexIP, and Polycom, we'll be able to leverage Teams with those devices. Desk and conference phones. There are new desk phones from AudioCodes and Yealink, and new conference room phones from Crestron, Polycom, and Yealink that will be running a native Teams application for consistent and streamlined calling experiences. And then one of the cool ones that was noted at Enterprise Connect is the idea of a mobile phone station. So the one that was highlighted there is from Plantronics, and what it does is combines the team experience with desk phone capabilities for a mobile user. So you use your mobile device in a very similar way that you would a desk phone. So very interesting capabilities there from Plantronics. Now I will hand over to Robert, and he will talk about the partner call to action. So Robert Gates, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thanks, David. Let me just grab this slide there.
Thanks, David. Great update. And I'm sorry you're not appreciating my Cyndi Lauper poster, but.
Awesome. All right. So one of I think the most important pieces from a call to action is just taking some time and actually using Teams if you're not already using it today, as well as inside of your customers, working through and beginning to use the Teams client. Teams is included across the board in the Office 365 suite for the core functionality. Obviously, when you do need voice and capability out to the PSTN, there are calling plans that do need to be included. But it is available across the board, and it's really, really, I think, critical to get started. Even if you just do something as simple as, take a few moments, look inside of your email, look for those really noisy conversations with folks, and then identify some common threads. Take those elements, build a team or two, build a couple channels, and try to work with the folks to move those conversations in there. Once you begin to do that, folks are going to start to see the power of Teams, how it's going to reduce email, improve productivity and collaboration across the board. Even just some things that our Teams is doing internally, where we're actually working on PowerPoint and Word doc and Excel sheets directly inside of Teams out in the open, where other folks in our group can sort of contribute and collaborate on the document. We are seeing a change in the way Teams or the way people are working, and how Teams is helping to really answer and address that. So it's helping organizations impact their hiring process, as well as create better retention, because the tools are really focusing in on the way folks are working today, especially millennials and the mobile workforce. As mentioned, we are moving Skype for Business Online to Teams, and we, at Enterprise Connect, it was our 1-year anniversary, and we got Best in Show at Enterprise Connect. So there's a lot of great momentum and excitement around the platform. The one key element that I really want to highlight, though, is that what we're seeing is not only is their opportunity to adopt and deploy and roll Teams out across organizations, but as you begin to deploy Teams, it is lighting up excitement and opportunities to do additional workloads. So the ability to go out and deploy SharePoint online and taking advantage of additional capabilities extending above and beyond what you can do inside of Teams through SharePoint. We're also seeing adoption and people looking to take advantage of Yammer as a result of Teams deployments, and same thing with OneDrive and the other workloads. So it is helping to create adoption and really light up the other elements inside of Office 365. So take some time, make sure you set up some demo environments, get your customers on, even just as a small pilot, get them to see the power. And what we're seeing is that once people start to engage and really see the benefit of it, they're taking advantage and really driving into the tool. From a partner opportunity perspective, obviously there's your traditional 4 capabilities, right? There's obviously the deployment services. And because Teams is built deeply into the Office 365 platform, there's a lot of opportunities to have discussions with organizations about governance and controls and, retention policies and a lot of the rich capabilities behind the scenes, they do flow through into Teams as well. So definitely opportunities for deployment, going through the organization's processes and workflows. And then from there, obviously the adoption perspective, coming up with ways to train and educate and get folks to use the tools in new and creative ways. From a managed services opportunity, there's obviously lots of opportunity to sort of dive in and deal with sort of a lifecycle management, facet. We're going to be releasing new features, of course, continually over time. This is a great opportunity to go into the customer on a repetitive basis or as part of a managed service, maybe once a month, once a quarter, introduce those new features to them, help them sort of adopt and deploy those solutions as well. And then obviously there's also the developer and integration capability, which Bob will talk about in a little bit. We also had the opportunity to work with Grant Thornton and just sort of wanted to highlight a few key things here. So Grant Thornton had done some research and went out to companies and to partners out in the market just to get an understanding of how the collaboration tools are really starting to impact and help organizations be more productive and what it's really doing to their current investments in phone systems and technologies and workflow. So, these 5 bullets here really is just around, again, responding to the customer trends in the market. We're seeing a lot of mobile workforce happening. We're seeing building redesigns where, organizations are no longer going with traditional cubicle style deployments. They're out there rolling out more collaborative type office spaces, which Teams and the collaboration type tools really work well in those environments. Again, being able to drive additional business value to the customer by lighting up all of the additional workloads around Office 365. From a partner perspective, again, the ability to create these managed services and recurring project type offerings. And then, we'll talk a little bit in a moment about sort of the extensibility and customization, but the opportunity to sort of differentiate yourselves as partners by developing IP, developing workflows, and building that into the Teams platform. And we're seeing a lot of excitement and positive feedback, from clients and from partners about the Teams platform. Just, if you hadn't seen this slide before, I just wanted to sort of touch base on a couple areas. Again, Teams really applies across the board in an organization. And, it's ideally what you want to do is sort of focus in on different peer groups, and marketing is an example. Where you've got your marketing folks, they're collaborating on various marketing efforts. Maybe they're working with Twitter and they're trying to track comments and feedback about their organization that's happening maybe in Twitter. Well, you can bring those Twitter feeds, for example, right into a channel, and the team can collaborate and manage that. Even from like an IT department, maybe there's a help desk email alias. We'll send those into a channel, let folks work and sort of collaborate on those requests and those tickets there. And we're seeing things like the finance department collaborating on quarterly, monthly type reporting aspects, sales talking about pipeline and customer opportunities, and across the board, again, from human resources to engineering to project management. Obviously identifying those groups of folks that are really working together closely day in and day out, and really moving those high velocity communications away from email and into the Teams client. We touched on this, but again, just want to drive home that once you light up Teams, it is creating opportunity to really pull through other elements of Office 365, deeper integration potentially with email and calendar, taking advantage of SharePoint, sites and file capability, pulling in the meetings and the voice aspect, building communities and having that persistent chat, even just project management, being able to take the planner tools, for example, and bring those in. And then, of course, all of that sits again on top of the Office 365 rich security and compliance controls and capabilities. So you're able to then sort of help sell and drive security and compliance through Office 365 as well as across Teams. This slide just sort of covers an example of a digital transformation journey with you might have with a customer. So obviously there's the whole focus on planning and configuration, really driving around, helping them look at modern collaboration and the effects that it has on teamwork and collaboration. And so you'll go through your traditional, doing your standard IT infrastructure assessment, making sure their networks are up and operational, they've got quality of service, that they're on internet connections that are, close or have limited number of hops to the Microsoft Global Network. Then you go through, understand what their identity access and management, security compliance, the governance rules about the data, how do they want to protect it, and then you obviously roll out a Teams pilot. And then from there, you start to get into more of the adoption change management, where you're going to go through content management, modernizing maybe their intranets, getting into some SharePoint opportunities, creating town hall environments, and then doing a larger scale Teams rollout. And then traditionally what we see then is when you start to introduce maybe guests or external folks, so you'll throw in the guest access, maybe you'll modernize some legacy apps that exist across the environment, bring them into the Teams as a channel or a tab or a bot, and then getting more advanced scenarios that we'll talk about in a moment when we get into sort of the developer side. From a go-to-market perspective, we do have this Teams partner kit. So it covers the readiness, sales, landing, and then obviously helping to build offers. So it's at aka.ms/Teams partner kit. Definitely download it and start taking advantage of the partner kit that we have. And then again, from just a partner next steps, again, get yourself using it, use it within your organization, focus in on some very small, high volume conversations that you're having with some peer groups. Get that into Teams, really work and drive folks to start having those conversations. And then you'll quickly see that your email volume go down. You'll see that there's an increased level of collaboration because people don't necessarily have to communicate and respond in real time. And the adoption will start to kick off. We do have a bunch of resources available at the AKA MS Teamwork Partner link to take advantage of. And then again, that partner kit. And from here, I'm going to hand over to Bob to talk about the developer side.
Great. Thanks very much. So I guess I'm going to do a big name dropping thing here and quote our CEO, Satya Nadella, who said that the most strategic developer surface area for us is Office 365. If you think about all the cloud-based assets in Microsoft, there's a ton of things you can do with Azure and all kinds of other services that we have in Dynamics. But Office 365 is so widely adopted and so capable and has so many different things you can do that building on top of that, really building on top of incredibly rich assets that your customers are already using or that you're going to help them adopt. So what are some of the things that you can do in terms of Teams development? These are some ways that you can extend Microsoft Teams today. And this is all in addition to the fact that, of course, Teams is sort of a single pane of glass on top of Office 365. And so there is the Graph API that can reach directly into SharePoint, directly into Planner, et cetera, in order to allow you to control those things directly. So really, here I'm just talking about Teams itself. We have the ability to add new tabs. So you can add kind of single page or multi-page kind of browsing experiences through custom tabs. Connectors is another option where you can actually send messages and notifications in to Teams from an external line of business system. Bots are getting really big, and so we can use the bot framework to produce bots that work inside of Teams, and they can have those kinds of rich conversations that Rob was talking about just earlier, as well as they can use cards and the whole infrastructure around messages to bring in actionable messages to allow users to take action on things. And then finally, there are messaging extensions where you can actually, while people are typing their message either to one another or to a bot, you can allow them to pull in line of business data or external data without having to retype it. So maybe I'm talking about a customer, I can bring that customer's data right into the stream, right into the chat stream, rather than having to go look that up. So What's interesting about this is, from a developer point of view, you may already have some of these assets. A tab could be an existing website that you already have that you just adapt. A connector or a bot could be an existing bot or existing Office 365 connector that you're repurposing. A messaging extension might be built on a web service that you already have. So there's a ton of opportunity here to reuse assets and bring them underneath of that single pane of glass that we're talking about. So why would you want to do any of this? Well, that single pane of glass concept is really key. If you really want to offer one pane of glass where people can be productive without losing time and attention by switching back and forth between applications, bringing additional applications into Teams is a great solution. It can streamline work and promote collaboration around the line of business. In addition, you can also use those line of business apps in the open. So if, for example, suppose I need to look up something or update a customer record, the traditional way of doing that is I might send someone an email, ask them to update the record, then I'm going to get back an email saying that they did it. Maybe I have to remind them. Maybe one of my colleagues is now wondering if that thing has been updated. They're going to ask me. They're going to ask the other person. You could end up easily with 5 or 10 emails just on one little update like that. If you do that in say a bot, a tab right inside of a Teams channel, everybody can see it. Everybody can see that change was made and that update was made. And so this is a great way to reduce the number of emails, is by allowing people to work right in the open. And in many cases, to elevate permissions. So they're actually able to do something in a moderated way according to your business rules. They're able to do self-service through, say, a bot, to do something that normally they would have had to do by asking a more privileged user. It can lower the cost and time to market of business apps, as well as reducing the learning curve by putting those business apps in a familiar tool that users already know. And finally, I see people using extensibility to close any gaps. The Office 365 compliance features are very rich, but sometimes in particular industries you might need more of a special consideration, special auditing, or other controls that could be added in this way. For partners, it provides an ongoing revenue opportunity and a great sales deployment channel for your applications, for industries that you may specialize in, for other non-Microsoft applications that you may also sell. You can integrate those into Teams, and that can be a great value add for your service. So right now we are running some workshops for managed partners in the U.S. If you would like to learn how to build solutions on Microsoft Teams, we provide an overview as well as app development instruction on how to build tabs, connectors, bots, compose extensions, and how to use the graph, and also how to automate governance and curation with the Teams APIs. We're also incidentally running modern SharePoint development workshops that actually may convert. SharePoint is sort of converging with Teams. That's another whole topic. In some ways, these may converge over time, but we're seeing a lot of interest in modern SharePoint development, so we're offering that too. So I'll turn it back to you folks, but I think Michael, and hopefully I'm seeing notes that my audio is not so great, so I need to get a new headset. And I kind of knew that, but hopefully you could understand what I was saying anyway.
We did, Bob. We definitely got that, and thanks for bringing these opportunities to our partners. And so we've come to the end of our content, and Willie is going to ask a couple of questions. And so please, we would just ask you to stay tuned for that, and just so you can give us some feedback, and if you're interested in what we're doing around some of those workshops. So I appreciate it. Thank you, David. And thank you, Robert and Bob, for your time and bringing us those updates. And we have a lot of customers that are just at different phases, kind of where they're at in their team's journey, and partners are like that as well. Hopefully you got from our presentation today, you can see that we're closing any of those gaps at a really rapid pace. Teams is coming very quickly, and so we encourage you not to sit on the sidelines, but to engage, take advantage of the materials that were shared today to get started in helping your customers on their team's journey, and to also be ready as partners as we continue to close those gaps on the roadmap, particularly around some of the voice capabilities. And so as I mentioned, you can download this, or I should say view it at a later date if you'd want to pass this along to some of your colleagues. It's that same registration link, and it should be available in about an hour if you missed part of this or you'd like to review it. And I'll go ahead and get the deck from the call out to our Yammer group a little bit later today. So thank you so much for joining our call today, and look forward to seeing you all next month. And we're going to hang around for a little bit to see if there's some additional questions coming in. And thank you to the team that's been answering questions. And so we'll stay on a little bit to answer questions, and please take the survey when it comes up. Thank you so much. Hey, Willie, are you able to get those poll questions out? We're getting some folks that are saying they can't see the poll.
No. Okay, I'll ask. I actually got some results, but I'll start them over.
Okay.
They should show up in the messages. All right, right now I'm asking, would you like to be contacted about a future Teams workshop? I'll give it a minute and then I'll post the next one. Just asking, how was the content today? All right, I just switched to the next question.
Thanks, Willie. Looks like they're coming through for some folks.
Okay. Yep.
Still have some questions coming in, so thank you for those, and we're going to continue to work on those. And for those of you that didn't see the poll, still didn't see the poll, Looks like many of you did. I actually did not see it come through myself on my view. So feel free to go ahead and just post your feedback in the messages window, and that will be preserved for us. We won't broadcast that publicly. So Robert or Bob or David, does anybody want to have any insight around the question around really eager to be able to get moving with telephony and Teams? Any dates for APIs? Is that something that we should be maybe looking for a little more information around that build time frame? Any comments on that?
I haven't heard anything, but I don't.
We do have some announcements about APIs at Build. I'm not sure if they're specific to telephony or not, but we will have more updates at Build.
And what about Kazi's question? Is there a dashboard for all live calls for auto attendance and call queues in the call center scenario? Is there a team contact center in the call center scenario integrated with Office 365? And is there a new attendant console client? Can you view call queues and auto attendant console? Anybody have any insight on that one?
I don't.
No, I don't at the moment either.
Okay. All right, well, feel free to keep posting those questions, and if you didn't get your question answered, we'll go ahead and follow up with that, because we will be able to get a report and make sure that you get an answer. So I'm going to go ahead and close out this stream. Thank you again for your attendance today, and looking forward to seeing you next month.